If you have read or watched the original Hunger Games, then you know how Sunrise on the Reaping ends. Haymitch is a drunk, he's lost everyone close to him, the games he won traumatized him for the rest of his life. We even know some of the broad strokes of what happened in that arena, because Katniss and Peter watched the footage in Catching Fire. So this isn't a mystery. And yet, what Suzanne Collins does with a story whose ending you already know is honestly incredible. And today I'm going to talk about what we as writers can learn from it. By the way, I'm A.A. Watson. On this channel, I talk about how to write better fiction using examples I've learnt from books such as Sunrise on the Reaping and from my own writing such as this book right here, The Living Weapon, that I recently just published a few weeks ago. And massive spoiler warning for Sunrise on the Reaping. So if you haven't read it, then go read the book and come back. It's a great book. Let's start with the games themselves, because what Collins does here is incredibly clever. We find out that what Katniss and Peter watched in Catching Fire, the footage of Haymitch's games, was a heavily edited version. And we find out why. Haymitch was an absolute menace and a rebel throughout those games. But during them, and especially after, the Capitol works hard to edit the footage into a version that fits the story they want to tell. That's exactly what they do with Katniss and Peter's own games in the original books, except here it's even more blatant, even more on the nose. And that's not a coincidence. It's the theme doing double duty. It fits perfectly into how the Capitol operates this entire series. Control the narrative, control the people, which means Collins gets to have it both ways. She's reinforcing established themes and she's buying herself the freedom to add more to these games than anything we've been told before. That's a genuinely useful technique if you're writing a prequel to events your reader has technically already seen. You don't have to invent new canon and hope nobody notices the difference. You can reveal that the version they already know was filtered, incomplete, biased, edited by someone with a reason to edit it, and suddenly you have room to tell the real version without contradicting anything. But notice what this technique can't do. It only works on the things we only thought we knew. It doesn't touch the actual problem of this book, because most of what's coming we already do know. We know who survives, we know in broad strokes who doesn't. You can't edit your way out of a death the reader has already been told happened years ago in plain language in a different book. So the real test isn't the games, it's everyone Haymitch loses on the way there. We know Haymitch survives his games, which means automatically we know every other tribute doesn't. But what Collins is able to do is make us feel something for the tributes despite us knowing what their ending is going to be. She doesn't just make them likable or show that they're young or sympathetic on the surface. Well, she does do that, but it's deeper than that. Because we don't experience these characters directly. We experience them through Haymitch, through his relationship to them, his memory of them, his feelings about them. And once we're inside that, we start hoping despite ourselves, even though we already know better. Take Luella. If you strip down what we actually see her go through on the page, she's reaped, she and Haymitch talk briefly about being allies, and then she dies at the tribute parade. That's it. That's her story. But most of our actual contact with her isn't her current actions. It's Haymitch remembering their history, Haymitch worrying about protecting her, Haymitch's feelings towards her. We feel what he feels. So when she dies, which we knew the entire time was coming, it still lands because we were never grieving Luella in isolation. We were grieving her through him. Same with Lulu. We don't know much about how she ended up where she is, but Collins doesn't need us to. Haymitch's feelings toward her do the work even though he barely knows her. Wyatt saying she's one of us now reinforces it from outside. And yes, there's other material doing its job too. The snake scenes are genuinely endearing with Lulu. Or as another example with Ambert, him being BT's son gives us an existing emotional hook since we already know BT from the original trilogy. Collins is using everything in the toolbox, but the through line is still Haymitch. The clearest example is Maisa Lee. She goes through a full pivotal arc in this book, and almost all of that arc happens inside Haymitch's head, not in her actions. He starts off not liking her. Slowly, because of what she does and the connection that builds between them, he opens up, gets closer, and by the end, he considers her his sister. Ask yourself honestly, how much did Mesa Lee actually change as a character in that time? Maybe she learned to hold her tongue a little. That's about it. But it feels like a journey because Haymitch's feelings toward her went on one. So when she dies, it feels like losing someone Haymitch loved. Across Luella, Lulu, Ampert, Mesa Lee, was it the loss of their lives that actually hit us? We knew none of them were surviving. No, it was the loss of their connection to Haymitch that hit us. In a story where you don't know the ending, a death hurts because you loved the character. You'll miss them. Here, it hurts because you loved them through Haymitch. You'll miss watching the two of them together. That's how you make a death land, even if the reader knows that the character isn't making it out. If you know a side character has to die and you can't surprise the reader with the fact of it, don't root the reader's connection to the character through that character's traits alone. Root it through your point of view character's relationship with them. The reader will grieve the relationship, which you control completely, even when they already know the outcome. Now the death built to hit hardest of all. Lenore Dove. Like the others, we mostly know her through Haymitch's eyes, but her death works on a completely different level because this is the one we've been bracing for the entire book. Walking in, you probably knew, same as I did, that Haymitch's family and Lenore Dove weren't going to survive Snow's punishment for whatever Haymitch did in that arena, even before we'd read a single page of the games. We were prepared for it going in. And then Collins spends the whole book carefully establishing Lenore Dove as a little bit of a rebel herself, getting into trouble, Haymitch worrying she'll do it again, until she actually does and ends up held by the peacekeepers. From that point on, we're on edge constantly. Every move Haymitch makes against the Capitol could be the thing that gets her killed, and we know it. Then he wins. We're on edge. He's kept in the Capitol. We're on edge. His mother and brother are killed. We're on edge. And then Lenore Dove is released. That's the trap. Because the second she's released, Collins lets in a sliver of hope. We start thinking, what if she survives this? What if she runs? What if there's a way out? We remember all the other times in the book she got caught and somehow walked away. And that's exactly the mental state we're in when she eats the poison. It's a rug pull. And the reason it works isn't just that it's sad, it's the timing. If it had happened earlier, say if the peacekeepers had killed her the moment Haymitch got home, it would have been sad, but nowhere near as devastating. Collins needs us to actually believe, even briefly, that Lenore Dove could be okay before it's taken away. And what elevates this is that it's the exact same thing President Snow does to Haymitch. Give him hope, then take it away. That's the punishment. Collins runs the identical move on us, the reader, at a meta level. What's being done to the character is being done to the audience. This isn't just Collins found two clever workarounds for an ending that was known. Look at what is actually happening throughout this book. The Capitol controls people by controlling what they're allowed to know, and by controlling when they're allowed to hope. That's how they work throughout the whole Hunger Games series. The edited games footage is Collins showing you the Capitol doing it to history. Lenore Dove's death is the Capitol doing it directly to Haymitch. And Collins does the exact same thing to you. She decides what you get to know and when. She decides when you're allowed to feel safe. For 400 pages, you are not just reading about what it feels like to live under a regime that weaponizes hope. Collins puts you inside that exact experience. Collins didn't just explain the theme. She made us feel it from the inside using the method of the theme. So, we walked into this book already knowing how it ended. Haymitch is drunk, alone, a rebel who loses everyone he loves. Collins never tried to hide a single piece of that from us. And we still are left devastated. Not because she tricked us with a surprise, but because for the length of the book, we were put in Haymitch's exact situation. Knowing something terrible is coming, hoping it isn't anyway, and then being punished for that hope. If you you're writing a story where the reader already knows the ending, a prequel, a retelling, something based on a historical event even where the ending is public knowledge, stop treating that as a problem. It's an opportunity. Collins had that exact issue and solved it twice over. On the plot level, by exposing the original telling as incomplete, and on the character level, by rooting connection through her point of view character and controlling exactly when hope is allowed to rise. These tools are especially useful when you're writing under the same constraints that Collins was writing under, but it's not for prequels only. Test them out in your own writing, regardless of the type of story you're writing, and see how it goes. That being said, if you like this video, you might like this video that's showing up on screen right now, where I broke down how Suzanne Collins uses uncertainty to make us go on a roller coaster of emotions in A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Have a good one. AA Watson out.